So in this video, I'm going to teach you everything you need to know to get started in Teamfight Tactics. Now I'm going to assume you haven't played the game, or you've played your first couple of games and you don't really understand what's happening. And we're going to go over the mechanics in this video, not necessarily strategy and how to like win, but what's going on in general. Because when you start playing the game, there's so many different pieces that are all moving around that can be hard to get like a grasp. I'm going to be making a couple of videos over the next couple of days in order to teach more advanced mechanics, like how to choose what items to make, or like kind of what units should be going on your board, that kind of stuff. We are now in set 10, and set 10, while it's definitely the coolest like set that I've played, at least because it's like a whole bunch of music and putting different units on your board, give you different music, and it's very cool. It's very My Singing Monsters, like if you ever played that as a kid. It's very that. And it's pretty cool. However, tied with that, it's actually a very complex set, and while the new theme is bringing a lot of people in, I think that it's quite advanced. Even I'm struggling with it in my elo, which is like, I'm in the top like 1%ish of players. I'm not like a professional, but I'm pretty high, and even I'm struggling. So like, I'm gonna do my best over the next couple of videos, and I'll make a playlist in the description or in the top comment, probably both, and those videos will be going over like basically starting as an absolute beginner to how to like at least get decently good, probably gold or probably like gold or platinum ranked if you want to play ranked. So for the sake of this video, I'm going to hop into a game on an unranked account. I think it's played like 2 ranked games so far, but we're going to just hop into a match. I'm not going to focus too much on winning, so I might even lose this game, but I'm going to try and, as we engage with new mechanics, explain them to you as we hit them. So when you first get into a game, I'm actually going to move myself to the top because I think it'll be easier to see everything. But when you first get into a game, you're going to get to this screen, which is kind of, it used to be called the carousel or the starting carousel. Now it's like a 3 portal selection. On the left side, you'll see 3 different options or 3 different portals that you can walk into, and walking into it casts your vote. And when this timer at the top hits 0, it will be picking one of the 8 players that, based off of their position, that's what portal we'll be getting into. I'm selected on multi-talented. Basically, it's going to make that every headliner in this game is going to have both of their headliner effects. We're not going to talk about headliners just yet, but that's what the portal is doing in this specific portal. There were 2 others. I didn't read them, I'm going to be honest. It will select one person at random, so it didn't select ours. And this is going to be, we are going to get this artifact anvil. I guess I should have realized that because it was there. So this is your stage. You'll always be able to see it at the top in the middle of the screen. There's 3 sections in stage 1. Starts off with that little selection screen that we were just on. And then 3 rounds versus minions. So these minions can drop little orbs. I just dropped a little blue orb that dropped these 2 units out of it. It can drop units, it can drop gold, and it can drop item components. So we'll see if we get any item components here. Yeah, we got ourselves a rod. Now, item components are half of a full item. So if I look at this needlessly large rod here and I right click it, we can see all of the other halves of items right now that exist. So there's like the rod, there's the bow, the sword, the glove, the tier, the belt, the armor, and the cloak. And then a spatula is a special type of component. So there are 8 regular components and then the spatula. And if you mix any 2 item components together, it will make a full item. It kind of happens a lot, like fast, really quickly, all at the same time. So that's why the purpose of this video exists. At the beginning of stage 2 is when you'll engage your first augment. Augments they're going to affect you and only you for the rest of the game. So you can look at this. Infusion, your team will restore 20 mana every 5 seconds. We don't really want that. We have nothing saying that we want that. I really just like healing orbs. It's a very good generic one. So I'm just going to buy healing orbs and pick up these 2 orbs that I did not pick up while I was talking. Now we have a tier and an armor. You can see that it highlights which item combinations we can make. There's different archetypes for how the different items work. In general, a rod and a tier, meaning that you're going to be focusing mostly on magic damage. Rod makes a lot of magic damage items. Like this just gives you 60 magic damage plus bonus damage. This makes you heal off of your ability and gives you a little bit of magic damage. This makes your magic damage crit. So you can see that rod items tend to have a lot of magic damage associated with them. Tiers are associated with mana. You'll see a lot of mana popping up. So even 2 tiers is just, it makes your mana abilities cost less and you get more mana. Or a tier plus a sword makes every time you attack, you gain mana. So that's kind of how items work on a very basic level, is that tiers are very mana based. Rods are very AP based or magic damage. It stands for ability power. It's the same thing. Chain vests are normally very armor based. So a lot of the things that you can make here are very defensive items. Now you can see I have a couple of units here on my board. And I bought this Lilia, and you can see that she's a little shiny underneath her. That marks her as, oh, she also has this outline over here on the side of her thing. That does not happen when I right click on Kennen, just on her. So Lilia, when I bought her, was what's called a headliner. Headliners are special units that will show up in your shop on the right side of the board. If you haven't bought one, there will always be one here. It'll be upgraded, meaning that if you had 3 of the same units, they glue together and make a stronger version of that unit. It will always be the upgraded version. Now there's based off of like star level. You can see here I've got a Lilia that is not upgraded. She's 1 star here up on the top, whereas this Lilia is 2 star. Now if you get 3 1-star units of the same unit, they will glue together and make a 2-star unit. Not necessarily a headliner. Headliners just come upgraded. But if you get 3 2-star units, it'll upgrade to a 3-star unit. They're pretty powerful and quite useful in a lot of scenarios. I think I did mention earlier that if you have a headliner, they don't show up over here anymore. They do once every 4 shops, actually, so I may cut this in. If I didn't mention it earlier, I may move it in the timeline, but if you already have one, it will show up every 4 shops instead, just so it's not always a bad thing, but it would really suck if you had a headliner and then you just could never see them ever again, so you could never like replace it without selling your really good units, so that's why that's a thing. So this is my Lilia, she's my headliner, and headliners, every unit has their own ability. Like if I right click here and hover over Lilia's ability, you can see that she does magic damage to adjacent enemies when her mana hits full. She has 70 out of 140, as well as she heals herself and a nearest ally for a bit of magic. Her headliner ability gives her an extra 100 HP, and she heals 12% more from her ability. So she gets a little bit of a bonus from being a headliner, and every champion has one of these. Our headliner ability, we'll be able to click on it in just a moment, but our headliner Lilia has a little bit extra on her. And at the middle of every stage, we are going to have what's called a carousel, where we get to select ourselves a unit and an item. Now, I got myself a Seraphine. I have 2 Seraphines already. You'll see that she's going to glue together to make an upgraded Seraphine. And it upgrades her HP, as well as her attack damage, as well as her ability goes up a tier. So right now, the damage is 140% of how much magic she has. It's going to go up to 210. So when those glue together, you'll see that happen. Yeah, they all glue together. And now she's got more HP, almost double. And her damage has gone up from 140 to 210. Looking at the little like bottom right of this thing, the actual magic damage is 252. I didn't see what it was before. Now if we continue thinking about those items like I was talking about, she really likes being able to cast a lot. She's a magic ability user. So if we glue this sword and this tear together, we make ourselves a Sojin. And she's going to gain mana. A unit will always gain 10 mana every time they attack. The Shojin will give an extra 5, so she went from 30 to 45 when she cast her ability. A couple of other things we can talk here in the character panel is if you hover over this section, it'll tell you what their ability is. But she sends a little clump of magic towards the highest amount of units, not just enemy units, but any units in general. And I believe it heals your friendly units, and then it deals damage to enemy units. She's kind of like a healer, but also like a damage person. And if we right click on her again, right next to that, it kind of gives, this is really cool tooltip stuff. They just added this very recently. This will show you kind of where on the board this unit's supposed to go, as well as how much range they have. Oh, and it actually kind of has an effect on the board, actually, for the range. So she is supposed to be in the back because she does not tank or anything like that, as well as she has a range of 4, so she can attack 4 hexes away. Some other things we can look at is if we hover this, it tells us kind of what her role is. She's a magic caster. And it gives us a couple of items that she might enjoy. So Shojin is obviously one of them. And then a couple of other rod-based items. So the double rod would be a death cap. Rod plus glove gives us the ability to crit. Our abilities can't crit without that item, or an augment that does it. Augments can change anything in the game, by the way. And at the end of every stage, there's always going to be a PvP round. This one's Krugs. There's also wolves, chickens, and then some other things that they're based off of how far you get into the game. Here we'll get a random assortment of more item components, more units, and more gold. And this is a way for everyone to get like items and things like that very consistently. So we got 2 units. I don't want either of these, so we're going to sell them. And you can just drag a unit into the shop to sell it. Oh, there's another one that we do not want. The reason I don't want those is they are AD based, which means they do attack damage instead of doing magic damage. And we are very magic facing, because we have a lot of magic items. Okay, so I was supposed to pop this earlier. We're just going to use this as a tank item. We're not going to get into that. This is like a super rare item. If you read what it does, it'll tell you what to do. All right, and I just made my other items real quick. Don't worry about them too much. This video is not going over items. We're going to talk about items in a future video. It's going to go over items entirely. So a couple of other things that we can look at in this menu is this is every unit's attack damage. Now, Seraphine is more of a magic damage user. We can tell because her ability is entire magic damage. But every unit just has attack because she does attack in between casting her ability. This is how much magic ability power she has, 155. Every champion starts off with 100, and then they just gain more either from their traits or from the things that we give them. So we see this rod gave her 10, and then also the Spear of Shojin gave her 25. So she has 35 from our items, and then she has 20 that comes from KDA over here. We're here at our second augment. Augments can be silver, prismatic, or gold. You can see our first one was gold. This one's prismatic. This one gives us actually 2 really good AP items. If we come pick up this, we can see that now we have a Rabadon's, as well as that thing that allows us to crit. So now our caster, our main damage, has 3 full items on her, which is very, very good. Now I mentioned KDA has a trait. Everything over here on the left side of the board is the traits of what's going on our board. Every unit has 2 traits, at least 2. Some of them have more, but those are really rare units that you won't see until the end of the game. All our units are going to have 2 right now. So Seraphine is KDA and Spellweaver, which means she counts as 1 towards both of those. KDA, if we hover over it, you see Seraphine and Lilia both count towards KDA, but interestingly enough, that headliner I was talking about, like you can see Bard down here is a headliner, one of their traits will count as 2. So Bard is a Dazzler 2. He's 2 Dazzler, but 1 Jazz. Their headliner can count as either of those traits. He could have been a Dazzler Bard or a Jazz Bard, but that was a Dazzler Bard. This is our KDA Lilia. She could be Superfan. She could be Sentinel. Lilia has 3 traits, but most normally have 2. So like Cassante has 2. This guy's got 3. Actually, I think all the super fans have 3. It's very interesting. And then the rest of them have 2. Now, each of these traits that you have active, you can see there's some grayed out ones. Those are not active. They have to meet a certain threshold of units on the board to count. So KDA, its smallest threshold is 3. We have 3 because Lilia counts as 2. And because Seraphine counts as 1, so we have 3. And what it does is it gives everyone who's inside those like KDA squares that you see on the ground gains 10 max HP and 10% ability power and attack damage. So that's why our attack damage is 60. It would normally be 60, but it's plus 27. A little bit we get from the Shojin just because it has 25%, and a little bit we get from KDA. We also are getting a lot of that extra ability power from KDA as well. Sentinel gives magic resist and armor to everyone on the board, and double to the actual Sentinels. We're also here at another carousel. Grab this Ahri if I can get her, because Ahri is a KDA Spellweaver, and Seraphine is a KDA Spellweaver. And so they kind of just double up in a couple of traits that make them really good together. Now, we don't have Spellweaver in just yet, but we have Spellweaver right here. So now we have 3 Spellweaver, and we can look at what Spellweaver does. Your team gains 15 ability power. Spellweavers gain more, plus extra ability power whenever a Spellweaver casts. So now the entire team gets 15, but also our Spellweavers are going to gain 20, plus 1 every time any Spellweaver casts. So anytime these 3 guys cast, they are going to gain more AP. So actually, we have so much AP going on, it's actually kind of ridiculous. A couple of other stats that are worth looking at. Here is our armor. Armor is how much damage reduction you take away from attack damage. So units that like to auto a lot or like to attack without casting their ability, or some abilities also are attack damage based, you can just right click on them. Or even Misfortune right here, her ability is entirely attack damage. Armor is what defends against attack damage. So the higher armor you are, the less damage you'll take from like Misfortune's ability that does attack damage. Then you have magic resist, or MR. MR resists magic. Crazy how that works, right? And you can see there are 2 sentinels right here. Lily is a sentinel and Echo is a sentinel, and they gain double magic resist. So they are clearly tanks. They are supposed to absorb damage because they reduce a lot. If you look at This guy right here, he has 72, whereas Lulu down here has 36. So half as much. So he's double as good at defending, as well as his ability to cast shields. Oh, also if you right click on him, it actually now will tell you what role he is. He's front, he has 0 range, and he's a magic tank. And we're actually quite strong. These having a lot of items and healing a lot makes us able to last a lot into these fights, even though I'm not entirely paying attention. A couple of other things that are worth talking about is the shop. I haven't really talked about what's going on in this whole scenario, so let's talk about the shop some more. So there are a couple of ways that you may make gold. Every round you're guaranteed 5 gold, as well as you can get interest. So I haven't been spending a lot of my gold because I like farming interest a lot. So you get 1 gold for every 10 gold sitting in your bank. Up to 50. So I have 70 gold right now. I can only get 5 gold interest every turn. So now I'm at 80. I still am only getting 5 interest gold. Now I just spent about 40 gold leveling up because experience you can buy in 4 gold chunks. And I just spent about 40 gold to level up to level 8. Now the other 2 ways you can earn gold is you will gain win streak or loss streak gold. We currently have won the last 5 combat. We actually won 6 combats in a row. So every turn we're gaining another 3 gold. So that's a lot when it starts piling up. But then also, if you win a fight, that fight gets you a gold. So you can actually get a lot of gold in one turn if you're maximizing how much interest you're getting, you're maintaining a streak, as well as you're winning fights. If it's a win streak, you'll get way more money than a loss streak. Now, you do get money from loss streaks and win streak. It's just that win streaks get you gold every turn that you win as well. So that's pretty good. Now, I did mention leveling. Leveling does 2 things. One, what your level is how many units you can have on your board. I'm level 8, so I've got 8 units on my board. The other thing is there's these kind of like different colors that go to every champion, and every champion costs different amounts. So you can see Mordekaiser here costs 3 gold, Bard costs 2, but Tahm Kench and Cassante are each 1 costs. So there's different odds for how many of each cost there are on the board. So a 1 cost right now at level 8, we only can have an 18% chance, but when we were level 2, it was a 100% chance. The higher your level is, the higher chance you'll get more expensive units. If the table is available, I'll try and put it on screen, but it might not be available this set. Sometimes people make them, sometimes they don't. But the higher level you go, the more easier it is to get higher cost champions. And as a general rule, the more expensive a champion is, the better it is, like the stronger it will be. But it tends to come with the caveat of they're more specific in certain scenarios, right? So like Ahri is pretty much better than Seraphine, but the difference is Ahri really needs to be in a Spellweaver KDA comp, whereas Seraphine kind of operates outside of it pretty fine. That's kind of that's the main trade, but the later you get into the game, the more you kind of like cement into some type of specific comp. So it's almost natural that this kind of habit happens. You can see I just got up to level 9. Where this used to be a 3% chance at 5 costs, but now it's a 10% chance at 5 costs. So leveling up does quite a bit. Something I definitely didn't mention earlier is when you get to choose off of the carousel is based off of how low you are in HP in the lobby. It starts off in the bottom 2 and then it just goes up 2 at a time. So if you find that you are not getting to pick items very often, that is probably why. Probably the last thing I really want to talk in this video is a general rule that you play when you're playing around Teamfight Tactics. Is you want to have a good balance between your front line and your back line. And what I mean by that is we currently have 4 backline units and 4 frontline units. It doesn't have to exactly be that way on numbers, but it definitely needs to be that way in strength, right? So if you are focusing all of your gold and your money on buying champions that are in the backline, or if you're putting all your items in the backline, it's going to tend to lead to your front line being very weak. Because if you don't have any tank items, then no one's defending your backline units. So who's going to give time to your backline units to actually do damage? No one. They're going to die, and then you're not going to have anyone doing damage because everyone's dead. But that was kind of it for this video, which I really appreciate you guys for watching, and I hope was a helpful first step into Teamfight Tactics. If there's any concepts that I missed, or maybe that you would like me to go over more in depth, I will be making more videos that are going to be in the playlist that's linked in the description down below, as well as I try to respond to most comments I get. My goal is actually, I just want to make videos that kind of get people all the way to Masters. I've kind of come back because people mentioned that I helped them get to Masters, and that made me feel really good. So I'm down to help more people get good at the game. So as always, I've been Muffin. I really appreciate you guys watching this video. If you want to do me a huge favor, consider hitting that like button or that subscribe button if you want to see future videos. And yeah, I want to get back into like talking about TFT a lot more. So hope you guys have yourselves a great day, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.